Yahoo Fantasy Football. Running backs is what we're talking about. Running the gauntlet here, talking about running backs you might be taking in some of the rounds 3 through whatever.
3 through backup, yeah.
So, let's get right to it.
Well, we've got Thomas Jones here, who's playing for Kansas City now. I don't really see him having a great deal of value there, honestly.
I actually like him as a number 2 running back on your squad because he's a great running back.
He is a great running back, but I mean, he's going to be sharing time with Jamal Charles. And
I think Charles falls by the wayside, honestly, because that team is in such disarray as far as personnel. I think Charles falls by the wayside. I'm actually going to devalue Charles compared to other players.
That's a pretty
big
lot more disparagement. You're disagreeing with Yahoo, sir.
Ooh, whoa, whoa. Sorry, Yahoo.
Yeah. Clinton Portis, Washington running back. Doing anything this year? Yeah, he's old. Kind of.
I would stay away from him just because he gets hurt. He's old. Running backs, once they reach their peak, they fall off fast. I would not take him any higher than the 4th round.
Interestingly enough, I've got... this is interesting. We've got 3 running backs from Houston in this immediate area. We've got Ben Tate topping the list for Yahoo. And then 2... there's only another name, and then Arian Foster. And right after Foster is Steve Slayton.
That's because Houston made it very clear last year that they're only going to start the running back who doesn't fumble. And guess what? They all fumbled, so they wound up getting right back to the top of the rotation again. So
they're back to Ben Tate, is what you're saying.
Well, Ben Tate wasn't with them last year,
yeah.
But I think Ben Tate's going to be good. I wouldn't reach on him at all. But this tells you right here that Houston is going to have some questions at running back. Who's going to win the job? Who's going to be the one every week?
A lot of people think it's going to be Tate, but a lot of other people think it's going to be Slayton. Foster seems to be falling by the wayside.
Yeah. It would not hurt to have a Texan on your roster at running back. I wouldn't necessarily have one that you're relying on in starter's role, though.
Right. You can at this point you can pick up Steve Slayton for a song in your draft. So if you draft him as a backup running back, him or Ben Tate maybe.
One of those guys, or Arian Foster too.
Yeah, or even they could have breakout year. You just never know.
Break out, and if you've got them on the roster, that's good. So I would stash that person on your roster, but I would not depend on them to get you wins week in and week out.
Yeah. Chester Taylor in Chicago probably isn't even going to play. So
was that the name in the middle? Oh, we had Carnell Williams.
Oh, Carnell Williams.
Cadillac Williams.
Cadillac Williams for Tampa Bay.
Peaks and valleys defines this guy. Tampa Bay is not going to be winning very many games, so I would stay away from him.
Yeah. Like I said, Chester Taylor not going to play, probably hardly at all. So I don't think really he's worth much. Donald Brown.
He's going to get more looks because the Colts wanted to move him into the starter's role by this time. Talking about last year. He got hurt. He was pretty good, and Manning's willing to give the ball to whoever's performing. So if Brown comes out of the gate in practices and preseason looking good, look for Brown to have a pretty decent season. He's a safe bet as a backup running back on your bench.
All right. We've got LT up next.
Take him. If he's still available this low in the draft, take him.
Yeah, he's going to see...
Because I think he's going to get touchdowns. He may not get a lot of yards, but touchdowns make up for all those lost yards when you're talking fantasy football.
That's probably true. So, yeah, Tomlinson probably good...
He knows how to find the end zone, even at his age.
And we got Tim Hightower, who helped me out a lot last year when I finally traded for him. But seeing as Beanie Wells has emerged the way he has...
I think Hightower is a third down back.
Think so?
And I don't think he's somebody the Cardinals can rely on because they tried to do it last year and they wound up.
He'll get touchdowns too, though. That's the thing.
No, that's the thing. But I think B.D. Wells, being the type of runner he is, starts taking some of those touchdowns away from Hightower.
Fair enough. Darren McFadden, Oakland.
No.
Lendale White doesn't have a job anymore.
Yeah. He's busy eating.
Lawrence Maroney from New England.
He could either have a 25-point day or a 0-point day. New England,
their running situation is... What are you
going to say
about it?
Option if you're going to go with a Patriots
if you must have a Patriots running back.
I would rather take chances on any of the 3 Texans running backs than take Maroney as a number 2 or a number 3 running back on your squad.
Darren Sproles, who was a bust last year from San Diego.
If their rookie struggles at all, Sproles is going to have to carry some of the load. Yeah. I do think he winds up getting a couple more touchdowns than he did last year, so I think he has some value. But
I'd stay away from Sproles just because any value he might have is inherently dependent on Ryan Matthews' failure. So,
yeah, because they proved last year Sproles was primed for a breakout season, and they proved they didn't want to use him that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would have to agree with you on that.
Willis McGahee is the backup for Ray Rice in Buffalo, or in Baltimore. Sorry.
I would stay away from him.
Yeah, I don't think
he
he's
could benefit on some of the some of the leftover yardage for Baltimore, but I don't think he will.
Marshawn,
I think Rice is the guy, and I don't think anybody else is really going to benefit that much.
Yeah. Marshawn Lynch for Buffalo.
No.
Again, no. Please.
No. Stay away from Buffalo, period.
Yeah. Just don't.
They have the potential to be the worst team in the league. I'm just going to say that right now.
Leon Washington, you wanted to speak a little bit about.
I think he's good. I think he's good, and he's going to be great. I think if he's still available at this point in your draft board, 6th, 7th round, we're talking possibly. Take him. I think he's going to be a valuable commodity for the Seahawks, especially if Forsett gets hurt.
Yeah, especially if Forsett gets hurt.
I would definitely want to have him on my roster stashed away if he's still available at this point.
And as we get down here, you're getting into the guys that are, that are not going to help you all that much. We're looking at, Toby Gerhart.
I don't think he's going to be relied on much this season. I think he's a great running back, but he's not going to be relied on a lot.
Tashard Choice is not going to be doing much.
Only if the Cowboys have some injury problems.
Glenn Coffey for San Francisco.
He could be big if Gore goes down, but they said that last year, and Coffey did not achieve the way he needed to when Gore did go down.
We were talking earlier, you and I, about Dexter McCluster, who is playing for the Chiefs, and I was saying I like him as my backup, being on the backup squad, just because they've got him listed as a wide receiver and a running back.
That could be
which
beneficial
is extremely
for
helpful.
Yeah, definitely helpful in fantasy football.
So that's something. If you're getting down into those lower places, and you need a backup running back or wide receiver.
He's a number 3 running back on the Chiefs squad.
Yeah.
And he's a 2 or 3 wide receiver for the Chiefs, so his value to you on a week in and week out basis is going to be low.
Right. But if you're just using him to plug holes, he could be useful.
Yeah.
Larry Johnson, Maurice Morris, James Davis, Kevin Smith, Willie Parker, LaRon McClain, Jason Snelling. Yeah, there's really...
These are all guys that you pick up if somebody else gets hurt.
These are all
a lot of those guys you name, though, they had opportunities last year to fill in and didn't do that well. Jason Snelling was one that was actually pretty good, but a lot of those other guys, they're not going to do that well.
Yeah. Derek Ward's down here, I hasten to say.
If you're starting these guys, you've got some serious fantasy draft problems. You need to start with your draft.
These are guys that you can probably pick up in free agency, so I wouldn't even bother looking at them.
The fall off from running backs you would start to running backs in free agent is so quick that you hit a complete drop at this point in your draft. So I would stay away from anybody else we haven't named at this point unless somebody gets hurt. But we'll come right back at you here with we'll talk briefly about tight ends.
Yes, indeed.